Hi everybody, Paula Jo from Cedar Quilts. I've been having so much fun. I'm cutting more fabric for our Cross of Many Squares quilts and kits and having a lot of fun doing that. And oh my goodness, I keep finding more and more and more fabric that I have stashed away for this. And so that's been a lot of fun. And look, look, look. I have started putting some together on the wall. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be so pretty. I'm having so much fun. Oh, and I have to show you a few things. So one of the things that helps me a lot is I will use cookie sheets or muffin tins or cake pan lids, and then I will put a few squares on there, and then I take it over and put it on the wall and decide what I want, and I can take them off and put it on there. So that's been really nice. Another thing I've been using are blueberry containers. I love blueberries. And so as I'm cutting, I'm putting them in there to hold them and keep them in place. I try to cut as many 5-inch squares first because it's just easier to organize and whatnot for the kits. And then sometimes I have some 2.5 by 5-inch strips left. And then of course I do lots of 2.5 by 2.5s. But anyway, this works really well for sorting out either the 2.5-inch squares or the 5-inch squares, and then making stacks of kits and things. So anyway, yeah, I thought maybe you would enjoy having that little helpful hint of some of the containers that work well. You know, years ago, people used to talk about using pizza, the cardboard pizza boxes, but they always have a little grease on them, so I don't like to use that. But the blueberry containers, now, those I can get nice and clean, and then they work well. And I have found that even if I buy the same brand from the same store, they do change their containers a little bit once in a while. So some of them stack better than others. But anyway, hope you enjoy those helpful hints. Oh, and I have something else for you. I'm going to turn you around, I think. See if I can turn you around. Can I turn you around? I can't turn you around. I'll turn you around this way instead. I have a new chart of what size block you start with and what size design wall you need, and about what size the finished top of the quilt will be, and if you add borders, what it'll be. And I have it in nice order, and I even have the 10-inch in case you want something for like the side of your church building outside and want it really huge. But anyway, so I'm going to be posting that all over social media and whatnot so that you can start cutting out your squares. And like I said, I oftentimes will start with my 5-inch squares and then end up with some 2.5 by 5-inch squares. They're not squares, they're rectangles. Rectangles, and then the 2.5 by 2.5-inch squares. And then, you know, there's always some scraps that aren't quite big enough for that. So then I also have 2-inch squares, and I have some 1.5-inch squares. The original quilt, the very, very first one that was made, that was all, oof, I should have grabbed just one. That was made with 1.5-inch squares, and it's all little teeny tiny florals. And it was just a little wall hanging. But my friends, Darlene and I just had a brain burp. I can't think. Anyway, some of the gals wanted to do one, and they wanted it to be big enough that it would be like a queen size bed or a big wall hanging and whatnot. So we started doing all the math, and I checked with the gals that had made the original one. And so in my early stuff, I used to always say where that first one was from. I need to start doing that again. But they didn't have a pattern, they just made it, you know? So anyway, that's where I came up with the pattern that I've been sharing everywhere for free, because it wasn't my original thought, you know? But anyway, having a pattern and an idea of how to do it so that you can make more than one. I just think it's a wonderful thing to cover as many people, as you know, with cross quilts. They're just so lovely and timeless and encouraging and hopeful, and it's a good way to share your faith and comfort people. So anyway, we are putting together more and more kits, and we will be shipping them out to you. So get your orders in, buy your kits for the 5-inch squares. And then if you want, you can cut them down into 2.5 by 2.5, or you could cut them into 1.5 and 1.5 and 1.5. You could get a lot of squares out of the 5-inch squares if you want to make a small one. So anyway, I have to get back to work, but I just wanted to pop on here quickly and say hi. And yeah, start cutting up your scraps. We're gonna start making lots of cross of many square quilts. So I'll just leave you with some pretties here. So again, I really love the batiks because either side is good. It doesn't matter which side you have up if you're using a batik. I love the cherry wood because again, it's hand dyed and every side is beautiful. It doesn't matter. Now I do use some prints as well. And on some of the prints, the back side actually works better than the real side because sometimes I'm trying to find a fabric that's just really faint and almost white, just a blush of color. And sometimes I don't have the right color. So the backs of some of the prints are perfect sometimes. So anyway, you can use the fronts or the backs. Yeah. Whatever makes you happy to have a beautiful quilt. So, alrighty. See y'all later. Toodaloo.